Welcome all you guitar nerds out there. This is a video about the repair of a Kitty Hawk custom amp. The repair of this amp was a pretty rough ride for me. I assume that I have some more gray hairs on my head than before. If you want to join my painful journey, stay tuned. First of all, let's talk about these amps made in Germany. What do we have on the workbench? Well, I found this description of these rare birds in a magazine, Vintage Guitar from May 2019. These people stated, "Cross Dumble with Mesa Boogie, built in Germany, and what have you got? A Kitty Hawk." Ooh, that sounds auspicious. And really, when you look at the design of these amps, it looks pretty much like an early Mesa Boogie from the 80s. The mahogany cabinet, the grey cloth, that looks like my grandma's kitchen stool seat. And even the design inside the chassis is very close to Mesa. We have a black faceplate, witch head knobs, 2 channels with independent master volumes. And on these pictures we can compare the back of the cabinet. The huge back door, the giant electro voice speaker, everything points to Mesa Boogie. Alright, time for troubleshooting. The first inspection showed 2 different things that promise worries and pain. Somebody was in here before. You can see the scratches in the cabinet. And look at the power tubes. The glass bulb came loose in the tube base. A tube that is only held in place by some tiny little wires, providing a plate voltage around 450 volts. Oh, that's not good at all. Before I fire that thing up, I have to take care of that. I'll show you a little trick if you run into a situation like this. Before I swap the tubes for good ones, I want to test these old Mesa branded 6L6s and a few drops of super glue around the tube base, and you see, nothing wiggles anymore. I don't recommend this technique for a long period of use, but for test purposes, this is a good way to go. My trusty old tube checker from 1966 helps me determine the state these tubes are in. And yeah, 3 of them tested pretty good after I glued them together. But look at this one. This one is stone dead. Right, time for a first test. Look what happens when I turn the volume knob. The pilot light drops out. And the current limiter shines like my grandma's Christmas tree. Let's make the problem visible on the scope. That will be interesting. I hooked up a signal generator and you can see this nasty sine wave, the distortion, the cutouts. Yeah, this amp is really sick. Whenever I turn the volume knob, it's freaking out. Yeah, and again, the current limiter shines bright like my grandma's Christmas tree. Let's flip the chassis around and take a look inside. By the way, this amp weighs 45 kilo or almost 100 pounds. So I might call Arnold Schwarzenegger to flip that thing around for me the next time. Well, all the electrolytic capacitors are original. After more than 40 years, I assume they have to be changed. And as I mentioned before, the whole circuit is very close to an early Mesa Boogie. the construction, 6 different PCB boards that are connected with bridges and wires, a bunch of cables tied together and running through the center of the amp. Even the way the boards are secured with these plastic plugs. Yeah, everything in this amp shouts out loud Mesa Boogie, but hey, it's made in Germany. And look at this. Somebody snipped out 2 cables from the board that is called a digital switching board. A closer look showed even more disasters. A bridge between the preamp board and the switching board is cut open, and a ground connection tied to a relay was desoldered. So what the hell is going on here? What was the reason for butchering this board? Look at the schematic might help. The disconnected wires should be tied to the IC number 4, and they are going to the Footswitch. Okay, we take care of that later, but first thing first, let's examine the electrolytic capacitors. And yeah, bubbles everywhere, no doubt. These caps have to go. Here's the bias circuit. The bias is not adjustable, so you better plug in a matched quad of power tubes. These amps are notorious for heat damage, especially the tube sockets. They are directly soldered to the boards. So if you have one of these amps, check the connections of the tube sockets. These solder blobs come loose. Another overview after the work is done. New filter caps, overall 10 of them are new. The snipped out connections are back to stock. The tube socket is soldered to the board again. Everything looks nice, but the channel switching does not work at all. This amp really drives me nuts. After checking everything over and over again, my conclusion was maybe one of the ICs on the switching board must be faulty. But then, folks, I had a brainwave and I checked the Footswitch. Well, this is the one, looks really like it is hand carved in the wood shop. And it has a funny connection. It's kind of an XLR plug with 5 conductors. Yeah, and look what I found when I opened that thing up. Some smart ass disconnected the ground connection. Unbelievable, isn't it? So I had to rewire the Footswitch as well, and yeah, everything worked as it should. But I'm still wondering why somebody did all that shit. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and I think, why? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. Here is another feature of this amp. You can cut the power from overkill to acceptable, from 100 watts to 50. The schematic shows how that works. The switch disconnects the cathode of the 2 inner power tubes, and though you still have your high voltage, your heater voltage, and your negative grid voltage, no electrons flow from the cathode to the plate. And here is the switch on the faceplate. A pretty nice feature is this. In the overdrive mode you can switch presets for mid, bass or treble. And for both channels you find here a boost switch to crank it up for solo, for example. And this booster is foot switchable. Let's plug in some matched tubes and let's check the bias. Alright, we end up around 40 milliamps, and that's pretty perfect for a plate voltage around 430 volts. Also, it's a fixed bias. It's not adjustable, so we have to live with that anyhow. You remember the nasty sine wave when we fired that thing up the first time? Well, now everything works pretty nice. Here you see the distorted sine wave, the master volume works, you can cut it down, the sine wave is clean, no freaking out, no cutouts. Yeah, I'm pretty satisfied with the result. And now we can call Arnold Schwarzenegger to assemble this beast again. And then let's check how it sounds like. So, what is my opinion about this amp? My personal conclusion? Well, it sounds great, either clean or in the overdrive mode, but it has only one tone stack for both channels, so it's very hard to dial in a good sound for both channels. The construction and circuit is weird. The components are not really high quality, especially the tone and volume pots, which are plastic crap. The electro voice speaker is fantastic. So, if you like the sound of a Mesa Boogie or a Dumble, this might be the one for you.